What is your greatest fear? It's a great question, isn't it? What do you fear the most? What causes you the greatest anxiety? Recently, I was having a conversation with a very dear friend of mine, and somehow this topic came up. And her response has never left my mind. I've thought about it quite a bit. She said that her greatest fear is to be forgotten by her children. To be forgotten by her children. When I first heard her response, I thought, okay, that makes sense, right? You know, as a mother and as a wife, she loves them. Of course, she's going to fear being forgotten by them. But I started to contemplate her response the days after that conversation. And it's actually a deep, deep answer. Because if you think about it, what do her children represent? Well, what are they? Her children, and as any parent listening to me now would agree, there's probably nothing on earth you love the most than your children. They are the incarnation of your love between you and your spouse. And there's nothing you wouldn't do for them. So when I thought more about her response to her greatest fear, I realized that her greatest anxiety, what would break her heart the most, was to be willingly rejected by love embodied in her children. And I immediately thought of that conversation when I heard the gospel today. So the gospel reading today, if you went to daily mass, you would have heard this reading. It comes from John's gospel, chapter 14, verse 27. And I'm just going to read you a short excerpt from it. Our Lord now speaking says this. Peace I leave you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give it to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Let not your hearts be troubled. Because I come to give you peace, our Lord says, but not as the world gives. Because he's contrasting his peace with that of the world. Because ask yourself, what does the world say in order for us to have peace? It's always in relation to the four classical substitutes of God, which our world says, in order for us to have peace, to have joy and happiness, we must accumulate as much as we can. We must stop at nothing to achieve these four qualities, which are money, power, honor, pleasure. See, the world tells us again, accumulate those things and you'll have peace. But what happens if we achieve marvelously all of those things to numbers that are beyond our imagination? Our hearts are still troubled. Our world tells us to love those things, but our heart wasn't meant for those things. And I think this is what our Lord is trying to get at. Our Lord now, and the great, beautiful Christian message is that Jesus Christ is love incarnate. He is love itself. That you and I are created for this incarnate love of God. And so now he's saying, my peace is a relationship with me. That if you have me, no matter what happens in the world, if everything comes tumbling down around us, if you have me, then you have nothing to fear. Because everything else will go away eventually. But Jesus will never go away. And so whenever I find myself being anxious, whenever I find myself being fearful, I always ask myself, how's my relationship with Jesus Christ doing? And then if it's bad, or non-existent, or stale, I said, I better start working on it. Because nowhere else will I find the peace than in love itself.